What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Let's Grow podcast. I'm your host, Lex. And as you know, this season has been all about conversations that cultivate growth, but specifically growth in the fire as we prepare for our next Cultivate Conference, Forging the Future, Building Our Table this March 22nd, 2026. And today, I kind of want to just give you a little background as to why I chose the two panels that I chose. Not specifically the people, right? Because we'll get to that. We'll have episodes of me speaking to each of the speakers, but more so, how did I get to the theme around those panels and those conversations? So I want to talk through the meaning behind both of them, why legacy is personal for me, and some of the scriptures that have kind of given me language to the themes of these panels, right? So this year as a whole, with the theme being forging the future, building our table, we're talking about the fire that forms us, the discipline that sustains us, and the legacy we're called to build, right? So the first panel, it's going to be called Forged by Fire, and this is going to be the one. Y'all know how we always have that one panel that kind of brings everybody in. Some of us be crying. Y'all know I'm a crybaby. I'm a cry. I'm gonna try not to. I'm gonna fight it, but it does happen. As well as just everybody kind of like locked in because we can all gain something from it. And I think we can gain something from both panels, right? But this one has a little bit of weight to it because being forged by fire is not fun. We are honestly talking about refining seasons and how do we navigate our faith when life gets real. So my heart behind this first panel, right, is rooted in the reality that everyone is going to go through some type of fire. All of our lives, we're going to experience a season where things don't look the way we want them to look. We're going to go through a season of stretching that's going to push us further and force us to become stronger in one way or another. And sometimes we walk into those fires. Sometimes we walk in and we're like, oh, I'm ready for this. I'm ready to go. And then we realize that that fire exposes some things that God either needs to heal, needs to remove, or needs to strengthen in us. And then there's some fires we just honestly don't choose. And I think those seasons can come with a lot of grief, a lot of discontentment, a lot of discouragement. And then there's just some fires that we don't really have an explanation for, but we know that God is sovereign. And we know that even in those seasons, He's with us and He's that fourth man in the fire, right? And so that's the heart behind it. Like, we're definitely going to be talking about the hard stuff. We're going to be talking about refining. We're going to be talking about faith and even wavering faith, because I know some people that's a real reality for them. And my prayer is that the speakers and the panelists, like, we get to not just give you spiritual knowledge, but also practical wisdom that you can take with you and apply to your fiery seasons. I want everyone in the room to know that, like, if you are in a fire or you've been in a fire or you're walking into one, you're not failing. That doesn't mean that you're experiencing failure. That means that you are experiencing formation. You're experiencing transformation. And I think that there is grace. And it's not that I know there's grace for the stretching. There's grace for those seasons, and there's purpose in them as well. And when you get past the I'm in the fire, you can say, okay, what is this teaching me? What can I get from this experience and take with me into my life? You know, like, what am I going to get out of this? Not how I'm going to get out of this, but what am I going to get out of this? And so one of the scriptures I think of is Isaiah 43:2. I want to pull it up because I don't want to get it wrong. But it's one of those things. Honestly, Isaiah 43 in general, just read the whole thing. But Isaiah 43 verse 2, when you pass through the waters, I'll be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flames scorch you. Here's the thing about that. It says when you walk through the fire, not if. So essentially, God has already established that there will be fire. And he's saying, I'm with you. I am Emmanuel in that moment because you're not by yourself. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be burned. You're not going to be burned. He literally tells you you're not going to be burned. He didn't say you're going to be not going to be forged. He said you're not going to be burned. Different things. In the last episode, we talked about the process of forging and how that process of strengthening something requires heat. That process of shaping something requires heat, but it doesn't mean that you're burned. So I want to keep that at the front of mind because you're not being burned. But you know that fire is coming. Even if you're not in that season now, you know that fire is coming. There we go. I like this better. I'm sorry, I was messing with my hair. Another scripture that I think it was 1 Peter. Let me look. Let me check my notes. 1 Peter 1, I think. 1 Peter 1. Yes, 1 Peter 1. In this greatly rejoice, though now for a little while, if need be, you have been grieved by various trials, that the genuineness of your faith, being much more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire, may be found to praise, honor, and glory at the revelation of Jesus Christ, whom having not seen you love, though now you do not see him, yet believing, you rejoice with joy inexpressible and full of glory, receiving the end of your faith, the salvation of your souls. I'm really talking about specifically where it says, though it is tested by fire, may be found to praise, honor, and glory at the revelation of Jesus Christ. I think, to me, that scripture speaks to refinement being evidence that God is preparing you. And not only that he's preparing you, but that it may be for the glory of God, right? And then I think about, obviously, in Daniel, the fourth man was in the fire. So those are just things that I've kept with me as I kind of unpacked and think through these things and prepare for those conversations with those speakers. And then for me personally, I know in my seasons of fire, sometimes I would look and I'm like, okay, is this, like, what did I do? Is this punishment for something? Like, let's talk about this, God. What happened? And it's not punishment. It's rarely judgment, honestly. But a lot of times it's pruning. And when I think about pruning, I have been sitting in John 15. Y'all probably gonna hear me talking about this for the whole season because I've been sitting with John 15 for a minute. Pruning is so necessary, right? Like, in John 15, he talks about how for any branch that does not bear fruit, he cuts it. And also, for branches that do bear fruit, he prunes them so that they bear more fruit. They're both getting cut, but for two different reasons. And I think pruning is uncomfortable, but it's inevitable. You have to experience some type of pruning in order to bear more fruit. And so for me, I have to hold tightly to that, understanding that not every fire is judgment. Not every fire is a consequence or a result of something else. Sometimes it's just strengthening us. Often, almost all the time. I would argue all the time. And I would say that God allows things to happen so that we can come out stronger. And we can come out to be more like him and more like the way that he originally designed for us to be. And so for me, I think, okay, refining seasons, we know they're uncomfortable. We know that they can be isolating. We know that they are sometimes extremely painful. But I also think when it comes to them, they're necessary. But community is a huge piece in that. Because if you don't have the right community around you, you can misname the season, right? It could be a season of fire, sure, but you can blame it on something else if you don't have community to really like sit with you and say like, okay, let's talk about this. Let's walk through this together. Let's experience this. And y'all know community is a huge pillar for me. So I think in that first panel, we are going to talk about how community plays a role in those hard seasons and how they help us get through it and how they hold us up in those seasons. But that second panel is going to be more community based. It's going to be heavily around the concept of community, because this is kind of where that building our table part comes in. I think when we talk about building our table, it's going to require more people. Like, if we are talking about legacy, future generations, and just setting an example, leading by example, that automatically means that there is an audience. That automatically means that there are partners. You know, like I think about vertical relationships and horizontal relationships. Vertical, you and God first, right? But then you also have people that are like mentors or parental examples for us. And then you have your horizontal relationship with your peers. But then you also have the other side of the vertical of like people that you may be mentoring or people that may be following you. And so I want to kind of talk about those things in the second panel, which is going to be called Building Better Together, because we have to do this together. We have to build this together, which is going to come back to the necessity for men and women. I don't think that legacy starts with age. I think it starts with intention. So a lot of times we think of the word legacy as like, what are you leaving when you die? I don't really think about that. I actually think it's how you live every day and what are you teaching people and what are you showing people from your life experiences? What are you leaving them with? That's the way that I look at legacy. So I don't think that it's just what people inherit from you, but it's also what people experience because of you, if that makes sense. So this panel, Building Better Together, is going to be about building forward, not just reacting to the life that we have, but also planning for the life that we want to give to those behind us and beside us. So I think it's going to be a lot about intentionality, leadership, and of course we're going to talk about faith, because like it's non-negotiable. But I think it's going to be more about like that leadership, leading by example, setting an example for those around us, those coming behind us. Like that's really big for me personally. I've always had a conviction of like there are people watching you from ever since I was like 18 years old. I was like, oh, people are paying attention. Interesting. But I took it very seriously because I know that I want to be intentional about what I am displaying to younger generations. I think about one of my god kids. So she'll like we'll sit together at church, and if I do something, she gonna start doing it. So like for instance, one day I think I took my shoes off. Next Sunday or next Wednesday, she took her shoes off, and I was like, oh, I gotta start keeping my shoes on because that's not safe for her to do right now. There's nothing wrong with me doing it in this moment, but for her, she could slip, she could fall, you already on the floor, so like it's not a good thing. Or like I would, if it's like worship, I might step or walk into the aisle and pace or something. Then she started doing it. I was like, oh, can't do that. And something so small, right? There's nothing wrong with what I'm doing, but understanding that it's not safe for her. Understanding that it's not safe for her. And knowing that I have to choose to restrain and refrain from doing that for the sake of her. And I just think that's a small example of what it is to live a life intentionally knowing that you're leading by example. And I think that's going to be important. And the people that are speaking on this panel, I think that they demonstrate that in their lives, which is why I chose them, because I know that they can talk about these things with intention and with seriousness, right? So I think a lot of us grew up with survival being the goal and not necessarily legacy, I think that's when you see people say, do as I say and not as I do. But I think we kind of got to push back on that a little bit. Like, we really got to flip that. We should be telling them, or at least leading and showing them things that what we do, they can do, and not the opposite, right? I think God is shifting us, specifically in my generation, to be a generation that actually speaks up against those things and build and heal and restore, and to think with generations in mind. Like, I think every yes that we give is expensive. So we need to be more intentional about how we are shaping our tomorrow through the yeses that we have, or the actions that we're taking right now. When I think about different scriptures, I think about iron sharpening iron, number 1, that's in Proverbs. And I don't know the specific address in this moment, but read the whole Bible, you'll find it. There's another one I think about often, though, and I think it is in Nehemiah, where he talks about fight for your families, your sons, your daughters. I think that's very, I gotta find it because I actually want to get this right. But I think it's important because for someone like me, who I don't have children yet, but I understand that the decisions I make today affect them even now. I think it's important that we keep that in mind. So in Nehemiah 4, it is where they're talking about like the wall being defended against their enemies. And is it verse 13, he talks about how he positioned the men at the lower parts of the wall at the openings, and he set them according to their families. 14, I think it says, and I looked and arose and said to the nobles, to the leaders, to the leaders, and to the rest of the people, do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, great and awesome, and fight for your brethren, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your houses. And it happened when our enemies heard that it was known to us and that God had brought their plot to nothing, that all of us returned to the wall, everyone to his work. I think 14 to 15 talks about fighting for them. Even now, fighting for them even now, even though they're not necessarily here for me, right? No kids yet. I think it's important because that intention that I have every single day, even with them not being here, is shaping their future. The decisions if I go and I spend a bunch of money on a car when I can put that money elsewhere, like maybe into real estate or something, that is going to affect my children when they come, right? And so I think legacy requires that intention and that forward vision. You have to have foresight and really think about what are the decisions I'm making today that will affect people tomorrow, and not literally tomorrow, but just like in future, So I think those are the things that have really been sticking with me as I unpack this concept and this theme of building better together, because ultimately I do believe that. I believe that we do better in community. I think that the Bible shows us that community is from the very beginning. Like from Genesis all the way to Revelation, you see community. It is a constant reminder for us to be in community. It is not good for man to be alone, right? And I think I've been using the term legacy builders as I kind of roll out the content, the promo. And I really do believe that. I do believe that we are legacy builders, and I'm intentional in calling us that, because if we can acknowledge it and recognize it now, we can understand this is important. The things that we're doing are important, even the small things like eating habits and things like that. And I think legacy builders are not people that have everything figured out. They're not people that have it all together. They're not perfect people. They're just people who refuse to stay stuck. They are people that choose to think forward. And I think that we are people that we're obedient people. We do whatever God is telling us to do in this moment and whenever he says anything, right? And so for me, I just think that we need to keep this in mind. We need to keep this at the forefront of our minds. And legacy is a pillar of conference. Y'all know this. We talk about it every single year in some way. And that's because it's important for me. Like, I often look back of like, if it weren't for the people in my village and in my life, I would not be the person I am today. There are certain gifts that I have that are generational, whether they were intentionally passed down or not. They are a part of who I am, and it's because of people like my parents and my grandparents and other family members that have really instilled something in me. And not even just family, but I think about like teachers and friends, like everything. There are small decisions or small things that were said to me that kind of formed the person that I am today. And I think if we all look back, that could be said to be true about a lot of us. I think legacy matters to me because I've watched what happens when you pass down the right thing and pass down the wrong thing. You know, I've seen when healing doesn't necessarily happen in one generation and it spills into the next, and now your children have to deal with something that you could have defeated. My bad, I didn't hold your hand when I said that. But it's true, right? Like, I think legacy matters because I want our families and our community and the people that are connected to us to not inherit bad habits, but to inherit strength, clarity, wisdom from our experiences, wisdom, faith. Like, I think it's important that we're passing down the right things and that we're intentional and considerate of it every day, and not just a funeral or not just establishing a will or an estate. Those things are important, but what are you doing today? Like, let's get out of material stuff. Let's think bigger. You know, that's just something that I think about. I feel like for me personally, I'm building for the daughter that I haven't even had yet, for the women that look up to me, for the people that come to me and we talk about like entrepreneurship or mentorship or mental health or whatever it is, just people that are connected to me in general. Legacy matters because he, like, when I say he, I'm talking about God, right? I think he made it clear to me very early that he trusts me with impact and he trusts me with influence for the people that he has called me to steward in my life, my friends and my family, the people that I'm connected to professionally. Like, he trusts me with that, and I don't take that lightly. I take that very seriously. So for me, whatever I'm building or whatever I'm showing people, it has to be something of substance. It has to be something that lasts. Like, I want it to truly make an impact, because I can go tomorrow, but the things that I might say or impart into people, like, I want that to stay with them. So when you think about like, okay, what do I want people to walk away with at conference? I feel like Cultivate is a place that has served as an inflection point for people. I've seen people come to conference and then something that was said, or like the language we use or whatever it may be, I see them saying it months later. I see them implementing it in their business months later, and I'm like, wow, you really were listening. You weren't like, you were actually paying attention to what we were saying. And for me, I just think that that's beautiful. I think that you can't make that up. Like, that is only the glory of God that makes those moments happen for people. I can't possibly speak to everyone in the building and, like, you know, have real conversations because it's only so many hours, but I've seen it, and I just want that to continue. I want people to continue to come and get wisdom and practical tips and tools, but also gain community and network and meet new people. Y'all know I love when I get on Instagram and I see different vendors supporting each other, or different people that I know, but they don't know each other and they're supporting each other because they met at conference. Like, this past year, conference was in April, and I went to something called Coffees with Christ in July. My girl Zelena, she hosted something called Coffee with Christ in Metairie, and basically we met at a coffee shop and we were talking about Christ, and she had like a particular conversation, and in that, one of the questions she asked, I don't know what it was, But a young lady answered it, and the way that she answered it, she said something that we said at conference, and she was like, I heard someone say da 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 da, and I've really been praying that. And I think it might have been about like, God, show me my heart. That's something that I said probably 12 times last year. But she acknowledged like that it came from conference, and I was like, wow. Something I said in April is sticking with you months later, and not just sticking with you to say that it's sticking with you, but like you really took that to God and you've been praying about it and you've been walking it out and you've been living it. And I'm just like, people are really listening. Like, this is really important. And while it is only a 5-6 hour event, it's a moment, it's an encounter, it's a movement for people that are attending and need to hear whatever is being said by panelists or meeting the people. Like, I know Seisha, she met so many people at the last conference, and now they're like friends and they go do things, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, I love this. I love creating an environment that allows for people to make those connections. I love creating an environment where you can encounter God through his people. Like, these are really important to me. So if I had to say what I want people to walk away with, it is connection and community in Christ and practical tools and wisdom to walk out your seasons of forging. I think those are going to be my two that I want to see people walk away with. So just healing in real time, people giving themselves permission to actually grow through the fire and not pout in it, you know. I really want to see y'all bring these men to the table, because I think that they need this conference just as much as we do as women. And so I say all that to say these conversations are going to be really great. I'm really excited for them. I think the people that we have as panelists, they're rich in life. Like, I'm not talking about rich in money. I'm talking about rich in life. Like, these people are really wise, and you can learn from their experiences. I admire each of them for different reasons, but I just hope that you listen to what we discussed through this season of Let's Grow, through the day of conference. Make sure you get your ticket, bossesblock.com. And I just hope that you can take something from it. Something, anything, even if it's little. I don't care. That's where I'm at. And so, yeah, that's really it. I wanted to talk to y'all about our themes for this year's panels and what I hope to see from it and what I hope to get from it. And if you don't have your ticket yet, you need to hurry up, because they don't have a lot left, and it's early this year. People are not waiting, so make sure you get your ticket at bossesblock.com. If you're not following us on social media, you should definitely do that at bosses.block on Instagram. You can follow me at lex.lux_. And yeah, until next time, be sure to stay rooted, stay aligned, and keep going.